Curtis, your thoughts?
On
Anything.
anything?
Life, the universe?
I don't know.
Everything?
There seem to be a lot of books in front of us here.
Yes.
Just a few.
A lot of them are from my collection.
Wow.
And 3 of them are from Curtis's collection.
Wow.
I brought nothing.
Yes.
Oh,
I should have brought X-Wing.
you should have.
Yeah.
That would have been kind of cool.
Well, isn't Thrawn in X-Wing?
I don't know if he's in X-Wing. He's in TIE Fighter
Yeah,
for
I think
sure.
it was TIE Fighter.
That's what I meant. My brain.
These rebels are no something. Commence the attack.
That's the same animation?
Yeah, his arm just moves back and forth.
Interesting.
When did that game come out?
In the 90s.
Yeah, 1996.
Okay.
5,
Quick,
7.
I'll look it up.
Right.
Okay. In the meantime, hello.
Hello.
Welcome to another riveting episode of NRC.
Riveting is a bit of a stretch.
Yeah. What are we talking about today?
I don't know.
Well, we're at least talking about Heir to the Empire. I have not made it through the next 2, so
Okay.
my
Seems
comments would
problematic.
be very ineffective
Okay.
for the second 2.
Well, you're in luck. You have many options of how to
Yeah, I see
proceed
that.
with reading them.
1994.
94.
94. Wow.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Heir to the Empire, it came out in 1991.
Ooh.
In fact, it was May of 1991. So
Ah.
it is, yeah.
It's a nice old book.
Not
Oh.
that old.
It's not too old.
Not yet. Still have another year, and then it's old.
Who knows? Maybe. So, Timothy Zahn,
That guy.
released the author of these books. He released this version, the 20th anniversary, back in 2011. Perhaps he will release a 30th anniversary, since we're coming up on that soon.
If Disney lets him remake it all canon.
I
They
don't
won't.
know.
Yeah, I
Probably
don't
not.
think the timelines would match up.
It doesn't work out.
No.
Funnily,
Especially since Luke Skywalker is,
Weird.
dead.
That too.
yeah.
Well, Heir to the Empire is 5 to 6 years after Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
I mean, it's kind of in that zone where, well, now there are books out that
yeah.
try to explain.
There's that whole Aftermath book series, and that talks about how, the Empire just kind of zoomed out into the unknown regions of space.
Just
get
more
at
or
'em.
less what kind of happened
No.
in some aspects. Well,
No.
no.
The Empire retained a bit of space, and they're fighting the
Oh,
rebellion
yeah.
in these books, Ryan.
No, I meant about later on when you learn more of Thrawn's plan.
The Thrawn's hand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because he would go on to eventually kind of rebuild a different remnant of the Empire.
Right.
Or at least he was trying to.
But that had nothing to do with any of this.
no.
Where the Empire is fighting the rebellion, or the New Republic, depending on who you ask.
No. Suppose not.
And they still have territory and things.
This is true. So yeah, this is the original Thrawn trilogy that we're talking about today.
OG.
Yes, the OG Thrawn trilogy. So Heir to the Empire was released in 1991. Dark Force Rising was in 1992, and The Last Command in 1993. And then it did receive a comic book adaptation, I believe, in 95? I think it's 95 when they started doing it.
Don't look at me.
But yeah, so I did some research on how it came to be.
Solid.
So the author, Timothy Zahn, he was originally contacted on November 6th, 1989, with the idea to create a 3-book saga which would continue the Star Wars story after the events of Return of the Jedi. Because at this time, George Lucas did not allow anybody to write about that time.
Right.
It was
This was before Lucas sold out
Mm-hmm.
in the late 90s and early 2000s.
Pretty much.
It would have been
Which-
so cool if they would have made movies. It didn't even really have to be based on this, but
With Thrawn,
well, with Thrawn, but just more
thought
you know,
out.
after Return of the Jedi, but they still would have been using, like actual models and stuff.
Oh,
Yeah, I
okay.
suppose.
Quality
In that
would have
time
been-
period. Gotcha.
Yeah, it would have been
Mhm.
outstanding.
Would have
Yeah.
been cool.
Yeah, I
Oh.
think I agree.
Too bad.
Yeah.
The only reason I brought up George Lucas selling out is because I have a theory that after everyone started shitting on him about the prequels, he was just like, fine, you go do it. And just let people go wild. Because you got some of the most crazy stuff coming out in the 2000s for the Star Wars universe.
Well, I know that you do not really enjoy the Yuzhen Vong,
Right. But that's just me.
the Yuzhen Vong War and all of that.
That was
and
late
that
90s, wasn't it?
That came out. They were working on the first book that was Vector Prime. That was being released the same year as Phantom Menace.
Okay.
So they didn't really know about it yet,
Right.
about the prequels, but they were soon after. That's when they started to try to incorporate the prequels into the expanded universe. But
Expanded universe.
so
No longer expanded.
no, now just the legends.
Nah, it's still the EU.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Disney.
But so it was originally published by Bantam Books before I think Del Rey took over. They still are doing most of the books for Star Wars now. 2 weeks after already writing a 40-page preliminary outline with his editor, Betsy Mitchell, he was informed that he had to wait on the project until the lawyers between Bantam Books and Lucasfilm could work out an official contract for the project. And it took 6 months for the lawyers to iron out the details. And even then, Zahn jumped the gun by about a week and continued his work before he was officially given the contract.
Oh my.
And he wouldn't finish the book until November 2nd, 1990, which is almost a year after being originally contacted about it. And he...
He's faster than George R. R. Martin.
Yeah. In fact, I did some other reading, like some of the later books that he did for Star Wars, which were Outbound Flight and Survivor's Quest. They took about 3 months in total to get done.
Well,
Yeah. So he got better as time went on. Or maybe it just became a lot easier.
yeah, I mean, he's been releasing a new one of these like every year, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
Supposed to be another one this year.
Yes.
Right, but that's going to be before these, when Thrawn's still in the Chiss Ascendancy,
Yes.
which I'm less interested in, but I'll still read.
The story Outbound Flight did do some of that. They talked about how he was a lieutenant or a captain in the Chiss Ascendancy, and it was about how he launched a preemptive strike against Outbound Flight, which, according to the Chiss, they don't attack first, apparently.
Right.
Which is why Thrawn was an outcast.
Yeah, Timothy Zahn has kind of maintained that whole thing even in the new books.
Though in these books, it's implied. Well, even in the original books, it's implied that he did that on purpose to get himself kicked out so he could go join the Empire. Or
Right.
at least there's the implication that he did that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But either way, he eventually did go to the Empire, and
Fun times.
like he knew Palpatine somehow, or was it
Yes.
because he had like prior experience with him?
Well, in the new stuff,
He met Anakin.
he met Anakin, and he was
Yeah,
able to
yeah.
use Anakin's name to get him an audience with Palpatine in the new stuff. In the
Okay.
old stuff, I'm pretty sure he just Palpatine was probably interested in meeting this weird alien, maybe?
I think so, because in the older stuff, they talked about how the Chiss knew that there was a big force outside of the known galaxy.
Right.
And that would eventually become the Yuzhanvong. But they didn't have a name for them. They just called them the Far Outsiders.
Right.
And that was supposedly like the reason why Palpatine created an empire. He wanted a centralized government that was completely united that could go up against this extremely dangerous group of aliens outside of the galaxy. So technically, the Empire did
Nothing wrong.
exactly.
I've always maintained that. And Thrawn just proves my point. The Empire's cooler.
Yeah. So, I guess it was because Thrawn had that knowledge that Palpatine eventually brought him in. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, like I said, in the new stuff, Thrawn and Palpatine like consult a lot about the unknown regions. That's sort of his in. It's like Palpatine
okay.
wants to know what's happening there because he wants to expand his empire,
Sure.
and Thrawn has all that knowledge. There's really no subtext for the Yuzhanvong in the new stuff at all.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, they haven't
That
referred
doesn't
to
exist,
anything
yeah.
specifically at all, really.
Just sad.
Who knows?
But I'm also okay with it.
Yeah, I was about to say. So, he mailed his final manuscript on November 2nd, 1990, which is like, you think about it today, nobody mails a manuscript in order for it to get edited and published. It's all
Shame.
just, you know,
Electronic.
Email.
Yeah, email, all
boring.
electronic now. So kind of speaks for the times. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And then in May of 1991, Heir to the Empire was released, and in some minds would forever change the Star Wars universe. So while Zahn doesn't believe that he was the sole reason for revitalizing Star Wars, and also be able to develop an incredible expanded universe, he is still to this day extremely grateful for being a trailblazer in one of the most universally beloved pieces of popular culture. So he still really enjoys his original trilogy.
That's probably why he keeps writing new stuff.
Probably. He likes the character.
Yeah.
And as of today,
Yeah.
the trilogy, the original Thrawn trilogy, has sold a combined total of 15 million copies. And after its initial release, Heir to the Empire reached the #1 spot on the New York Times bestseller list. So and I think it also said in my research that didn't happen very often with science fiction books.
Right?
I believe it.
Now it's like every other day, it's a science fiction book that
Wow.
makes the list.
You know. Things change. We live in a more sci-fi world,
This is true.
so people are like, okay.
I think it's maybe not so much. Well, sci-fi is definitely a part of it, but there's also a big community of people who are interested in pop culture. Bigger community.
Oh, right.
I'm in season 4 of Community.
That's good. Oh, that's the gas leak here.
It is kind of it is weird so far.
Yeah.
3 episodes in.
No, in season 5, when Dan Harmon comes back, there's actually a joke about how season 4 was the gas leak year, and that's why everyone's acting a little off.
Yeah. I did enjoy the Halloween episode in Pierce's giant
Mansion?
castle mansion. This is good.
It's not all bad. It's just not as good.
Yeah. Sorry.
Sorry for this community
topic.
detour.
Wasn't there some episode where they talked about the puppets or something? And
Yes.
that's like, it's almost a community episode, but not quite.
Right, because there's no reason for them to have puppets.
Yeah.
So and they go off on a balloon ride for some. I don't know.
Sorry for the community
Thing.
derailment.
Diversion.
Sorry.
Sidebar.
Correct. So his trilogy introduced us to characters that have still held high regard, even to this day. Example, Grand Admiral Thrawn, Mara Jade, Talon Karrde, and maybe not as big, but Captain Pellaeon has still... He kind of made a name in the expanded universe, and he has returned albeit slightly, to the main,
Very briefly.
Star Wars universe. And many ideas from the Thrawn trilogy were used to set up future stories within the Star Wars expanded universe, like the Jedi Academy trilogy, which was all about Luke's search for new Jedi and establishing a new Jedi Order. The discovery of the Bothan's involvement in the destruction of Kamas, so the Kamasi document that comes in the sequel book duology called the Hand of Thrawn duology. Because I won't spoil too much for you, because you haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, I have not.
And then finally, it opened up the what would eventually become the Yuuzhan Vong War, where they only just described them as the far outsiders.
The Outsiders.
Yes. So yeah.
Yeah. The Kamas thing never made sense to me because I didn't have a face to put to that species.
Yeah, me neither.
So it's just like, it's a meaningless thing, though it means something in universe.
Mhm. It was,
We're getting ahead of ourselves
yeah.
with that.
I don't think I ever read that far. I definitely read, what was it, Vector something?
Vector Prime.
Vector Prime. I read that one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what else I read, though. A couple of random books in the universe.
Same. Well, I will say, I've only read these 3 books within the last 2 months for the first time.
I started. Well, what's weird is I have a strange memory from when we were younger, going over to Ted's,
Yes.
and I remembered reading a part of the comics for Heir to the Empire because I remembered the image of Mara Jade on the sand barge or whatever, stealing Luke Skywalker's lightsaber.
Oh,
The
yeah.
vision
Yes.
of that.
And I still remembered that for a long time, but I could never really figure out what it was from.
And you're like, oh my God.
And then I finally read
is.
this and I was like, that's it. This is what's been haunting my memories for 20 years. Maybe not 20. At least 10 years.
10 to 15.
Yeah. So I was surprised and grateful that got that off.
Yeah. Mystery closed.
Exactly. Alrighty.
Alrighty.
So where do we begin with the story?
Starts out with Thrawn, right? Is that kind
Well,
in the comic book, I think it does anyway.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In the book, Timothy Zahn very purposefully never goes to the POV of an alien, including Thrawn, so it's like from Pelion's perspective
Right.
when you're with the Empire.
Right. I vaguely remember that, which is why the new books were such a big thing, because you get in Thrawn's
in
head.
Thrawn's head. And so yeah, you start with a Star Destroyer coming into orbit above some planet. I don't remember. Grand Admiral Thrawn has just returned from the unknown regions.
Just returned.
Yes.
And assumed command.
Assumed command. Supreme Commander.
Yes.
Though he's just called Grand Admiral because he is the last Grand Admiral.
Yes. They set up a lot of lore for the Empire in the start of this. So we learned about how there were 12 Grand Admirals.
Yes.
And it was kind of like a ruling council almost.
So the backstory behind that is that Palpatine was trying to consolidate power, right?
Sure.
So he was setting up these 12 Grand Admirals to essentially rule different segments of the Empire and then report directly to him instead of the Senate. So he was using them to replace the Senate, essentially.
Okay. Yeah, but then how did all these Moffs and governors and all
he was
that
kind of
get in?
supplanting the Moffs with the Grand Admirals.
Okay.
From my understanding of it, was essentially he's like, all right, you're now in charge of the Moths. And it might piss them off, but it gives him more direct control, so.
Right.
Okay. Suppose that makes more sense. The other thing we should bring up, in the 20th anniversary book, Timothy Zahn wrote a whole bunch of notes, along the side, where he just kind of goes into deeper explanation into why he wrote
certain things the way he
certain
did.
things, and yeah, so it
That's
was
cool.
really cool. Yeah, it like annotations essentially.
Yeah.
just for per chapter. It was usually like 10 or 15.
I wasn't counting.
Yeah,
I was just reading them.
yeah, it was pretty cool. One thing that I found, so I'm jumping a little bit ahead, but I found it rather amusing. Apparently, after the book was originally released, somebody got really mad and wrote in, or maybe not like really mad, but complained to Zahn that they didn't like it that he created hot chocolate in the Star Wars universe.
Oh.
And it's like it took him out of the reality of being in the Star Wars book or something.
I get it. It's like it's such a mundane thing to then just be like, yes, I have hot chocolate in this Star Wars universe. It's like it's a little strange the first time I read it, and I just kind of like got over it because it's not mentioned that much.
Yeah.
But especially with other things that Zahn does, which is like, and he talked about that in his annotations also, was he would take a common phrase and then change it slightly so it sounded more Star Wars-y, hit and fade instead of hit and run,
Yeah.
things like
Right.
that. So I get how like you have all these slight alterations that make it feel more twisted into the Star Wars universe, and then it's just hot chocolate. It's like,
Yeah.
eh?
There were a couple differences like chrono instead of watch.
Yeah.
And there's something else that
Yeah, there's a bunch of little stuff
Yeah.
like that.
was kind of
Then-
interesting.
Han Solo reprises like all of his lines from the previous
Yeah,
movies.
pretty much.
Like it was okay to a certain degree. By the end of the third book, I was like, okay, I get it.
You're Han Solo.
You're Han Solo.
This is what you say.
Like I said, most of the time, like contextually, it makes sense. He's kind of like he's being cheeky about it. He's
Yeah.
referencing past events, but it's just like it does start to get a little overboard.
Yeah. Anyways, going back to the beginning of the story, we open up. We're on the Star Destroyer, the Chimera, which is
Good Star Destroyer.
and it would go on
Still
to be
canon.
Still canon.
It is.
But now it's off with Ezra Bridger and God knows where.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Rebels.
Somewhere in.
Nah.
I
It's
like
gonna,
Rebels.
It's going to result in something cool.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
It better.
Yeah.
If they bring Thrawn into live action only to like kill him off after one movie or one
Hey.
series,
There'd be
I'm over
There
it.
would
an
be an
uprising.
uprising.
I'm done.
There would be.
Cancel
a
your Disney
revolt.
your Disney Plus subscriptions if they do that.
Yes.
Yes, you should.
I watched those other behind the scenes videos. You know, the one about
Oh,
The Mandalorian?
Yeah, Mandalorian. The visual effects and the puppets and the score and all that. And the
It's
guy,
really interesting.
Yeah, the guy bought the giant recorders.
Yeah,
to make the
that was
music.
cool.
That was cool. Yeah.
I still have to watch all of that. That's.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
the
that'll be my
first three
next thing.
episodes, they're just talking about themselves. And
Yeah.
I think it's a little like, you know, that episode where Jeff's ego is like.
It's a giant apple.
All of them, yeah.
Your apple's going to explode. Shouldn't you be using a balloon? It's not important.
Oh boy. Anyways, we start on the Chimera, and it opens with Captain Pelion is kind of making. What am I thinking? I lost my train of thought already.
Aren't they looking for the creatures? Is that essentially
The
what they're doing?
Salamiri.
Yeah. Oh, but he's also kind of talking about how the Empire, how much the Empire has kind of fallen.
Oh yeah, he's
since
lamenting.
Then. Yeah,
Young
and he's
officers, right?
Yeah.
how he's like this, far too young to be at war and whatnot, or maybe
thought
not
they
be
were-
at war.
Like they're young and inexperienced and
Yeah.
untrained, and they had to like rush them through training because they
Yeah.
needed people to fill their Star Destroyers.
Mm-hmm.
If only you had a clone army.
Hey. Wink. Can we zoom in on that when I wink?
We probably can.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah.
Oh boy.
Oh no.
So it We also then lead on to Captain Pelion is going to go speak with Thrawn, and we are introduced to the character Rook, or Rook.
Rook, as is pronounced in Star Wars Rebels.
Yes.
Hey, look at that. You remembered something from that great show.
I remembered something from something.
Yeah.
And he's a Nogri?
Nogri, yeah.
Nogri. Yeah.
Another kind of interesting thing from Timothy Zahn's notes, at the time, he hadn't really been given much instruction on what the Nogri were really meant.
No, he wanted the Nogri to essentially be Darth Vader's species, or something goofy like that.
Or like the followers of Vader or something.
Oh.
Because so he then kind of modeled, or he described the faces of the Nogri to kind of look like Darth Vader's mask.
Yeah, that's what it was. His mask was designed after a Nogri.
Because at the time, they hadn't-
Originally, George Lucas said no to that.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
But that was his original idea.
Weird.
Beans on toast.
Yeah,
Very weird. Yeah, so we're introduced to Rook, and we are then introduced to Grand Admiral Thrawn as he sits in his gigantic room with paintings all around him, because he is very big into art.
Yes. You can tell a lot of your enemy by their art.
Yes. I like... whoever the voice actor is for Thrawn, he does a great job of just being like... both like intimidating but like peaceful, and like it's so eerie all the time. It was a good choice.
I hope their live action guy can capture that.
Like Benny.
Yep.
Benny Cumberbatch.
Benny Cumberbatch.
That'd be kind of cool. I could see
Perfect
it.
Thrawn.
He's got the right
I
voice.
could see it.
Oh, yeah.
He could. Let's just hope that he doesn't like try to eat somebody when he says his name, like, I am Khan. Hope I didn't destroy the microphone.
Noah loves...
I might go get one of those beers.
You're a prospective teller?
The eye gets chewed out when he says that. Smart writers.
Yes, so we're introduced to Pelion and Thrawn tells them that they need to travel to Wayland.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's
Well,
going to find the Emperor's storeroom.
Yeah. They had, I don't know if they already had the Ysalamiri yet. Maybe they had like one or two.
No.
No?
No, they end up going to meet... because they
Card.
meet what's-his-face.
Yeah, Talon Card.
I don't know if it's
Did-
Card immediately. Isn't it the other guy?
They go to Wayland first, right?
I think so.
Curtis, you just read this.
I just read it, but it is so many words and pictures.
So many words and
Overwhelming.
pictures.
According to this, because I printed out,
Nice.
see, Master Tactician, Grand Admiral Thrawn plots to destroy the New Republic despite their numerical advantage over the remaining Imperial forces. He sets his sights on the Wayland storehouse of the late Emperor Palpatine. So I guess he already...
Well, yeah, he's searching for that. But I thought he's also looking for the Salamiri at this point.
Could be.
And I thought that he goes to get those first. Yeah, he has to, because he has it when he first meets Jorus Sabaoth.
Whatever their rule is for cloning at the time was, so give Joruus an extra U in his name. Joruus Sabaoth.
Oh, right. Curtis hasn't gotten to the last command.
Yes.
Nope, not there yet.
They do introduce, they say in the Heir to the Empire already that he was a clone.
Yes, but, I mean, that rule doesn't apply
True,
until the
yeah.
last command.
I suppose.
Okay, so you said the dude's name.
Mm-hmm.
Jorus Sabaoth.
Yes. That dude, who is a crazy Jedi Master who has gone insane because, as you find out, he is a clone. And in fact, I think in Heir to the Empire, Thrawn immediately states that it can't be Jorah Sabayoth.
Because he died.
He died. And how did he know he died? You find out later in Outbound Flight.
You'll find out in a book in 6 years.
Yes. That Jorah Sabayoth was on the Outbound Flight ship to explore the unknown regions.
Beyond the unknown regions.
Yeah. And was destroyed in a preemptive strike that was ordered by Thrawn. So he had.
I see.
Yeah.
It can't be him.
Can't be him.
I killed him.
Interesting.
So he puts it together pretty quickly. It's like, Palpatine cloned him for some reason.
Yeah.
And they eventually go to Wayland, and they use the Ysalamiri to. We learn that these creatures can counter back the effects of the Force, creating like a bubble.
Yeah. Well, I think Dark Force Rising talks about it. Maybe not. Essentially, the dog things from that planet where Card's base was, they hunted using the Force.
Yeah.
So the Salamiri sort of like deafened their Force presence as a
Okay.
natural defense against that. How that makes sense, I don't know, but it works out for plot.
Yes. Plot.
Plot.
So they meet with Jorah Sabayoth because they were going there because they were looking for the guardian of the mountain on Mount Tantus,
Yes.
which was where the Emperor's storehouse was, and he had left a dark Jedi to guard it, and Jorah Sabayoth killed that dark Jedi and took his place.
Did he?
That's the question. Did he actually do that, or was it...
Or was he
Jorah's-
the guardian and he went insane?
And he imagined the whole thing.
Curtis, what do you think?
I couldn't tell you.
Interesting.
It's a cool theory. And then that's when Thrawn has to convince Jorah Sabayoth to join him. Or he
Right.
at least tries to.
By convincing Joris that,
You can get him the Jedi,
yeah,
the Skywalkers.
that the Empire is going to help him rather than him helping the Empire.
Yes. Because he wanted true power, which meant he would have Jedi to raise and create in his image, essentially.
Yeah. Well, I think use other Jedi to extend his power and control or something. I don't know.
Probably that. I
Do
would
not
agree.
know.
And that's when I think we then finally follow what's happening to Luke and Leia and Han. And it
Our order of events is off, but sure. Our order of events is off, but sure.
probably.
Luke is all feeling
Mopey.
the pressure of, can't, how
It's
is
all
he supposed
depressed.
to- yeah, how am I supposed to start a new...
Whiny farm kid Luke all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they had to keep something consistent.
Oh boy.
Yeah. I'm going to drink a hot chocolate to make me feel better. For whatever reason.
He likes hot chocolate.
Yeah.
The other thing is that in the Star Wars universe, coffee is called Kaffa. So they did change names to other things, and I
Yeah.
wonder if that was done as a result of the hot chocolate fiasco.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know. Come and drink your blue milk.
He should have been drinking blue milk.
Oh, well. So Luke is all depressed, and then Princess Leia, being stronger in the Force now, for some reason,
She's been training with Luke.
a little, I guess.
She had a natural inclination anyways.
I guess. She senses that he is depressed and decides to send 3PO to make him feel better. And
Nice.
he kind of does. sort of, because they talk about Ben Kenobi for a little bit.
I wonder if he recognized him with the red arm.
Haha. Can we just put the meme there?
Oh no. What have I done?
Memes.
Ben Kenobi.
Yeah. They see a Force ghost of him for a moment, and then he disappears.
Right.
And yeah.
And that's the end of Force Ghosts.
Yes. Supposedly. In this version. Because,
Really? That's like the end?
Pretty much.
yeah. Because they hadn't really talked
Well,
about
Ben,
the living Force yet.
In this, Ben Kenobi's like, I'm leaving this realm now forever. Like,
Oh, I don't know if that was in the comic exactly.
okay.
No, it wasn't. It was just like a picture of
Yeah,
him
it's just-
fading away.
There he is. He's up there.
No.
Weird.
Yeah, no. In the book, Ben Kenobi, Obi-Wan Kenobi talks to Luke, and he's like, yeah, this is it. See ya, bro.
Nice.
I'm out. I'm a head out. You should
Cool.
get that meme.
I'm a head out.
I'm a head out.
I've seen memes with that in it.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
You don't need to. Doesn't need to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah. Then we go to see Leia, and she's now officially a member of the New Republic government. I forget what her exact position
She's
is
a
at
high
this time.
counselor in the New
Something.
Republic provisional government
Yeah.
because they haven't reestablished a Senate yet.
Yeah. So it's essentially just her, Mon Mothma, who's the head of state,
Yes.
the Bothan dude,
Phalia?
Phalia,
Whatever.
Borsk Phalia, and
Borsk.
Borsk. Nice name.
Admiral Akbar.
Admiral Akbar.
Akbar, who is not good at politics, as we find out. He's
That's all right.
yeah,
He doesn't need to be. He's
Sure.
their military leader. He's
exactly.
not a politician.
But he's forced to play politician because they don't have very many people to fill in the government yet.
Curtis, this is a slight spoiler for The Last Command, but Admiral Akbar almost says it's a trap.
Almost.
Oh.
It very well could be a trap. Or it's like it's just like slightly off wording or something like that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Han Solo, I guess for some reason, had to be in on the... Oh, he had to report his findings to the New Republic Council because he was on an assignment to recruit
we skipped that part.
smugglers. Yeah. So I think that's where we got lost because we follow where Han Solo is, and that eventually connects to Talon Card. Okay, so Han Solo is trying to meet with these other smugglers to try to put together a smuggler coalition, I guess, or just...
He's essentially trying to put together a shipping agency
Yeah.
using smugglers.
Yeah. And it's not going so well because all the smugglers are like, no, we can get paid a whole lot better working Imperial routes rather than these New Republic routes.
There's also the bit where the Mon Calamari don't like smugglers, and
yeah.
Admiral Akbar is a chief member of this new government.
Yes.
So they're like, are we just going to get screwed over and thrown in jail as soon as we join you?
Yeah. So there's that going on. And then that's when they go back to Coruscant, and Han Solo is kind of reporting what's happened.
Where are you taking them?
Yeah.
He didn't do it.
How do you feel?
I do not understand the question.
Episode 1, where are you taking them? To Coruscant. Coruscant, that doesn't compute.
All right.
Oh, wait, you're under arrest.
Right.
There's a lot of that movie I don't remember, and I forced myself to not remember.
Why not? It's not that bad. Episode 1 is not that bad.
Yeah, sure.
There's a lot of plot.
There's a lot of plot.
Yeah,
A lot of plot that didn't exist yet.
that's true.
Yeah.
Yes. And in fact, like there are a couple things that Timothy Zahn goes on to say that, yeah, some of these things had to get retconned, and I wasn't quite sure because we didn't have any rules yet. We didn't know what the timelines
He
were.
barely got told that Coruscant was the planet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the design for Coruscant was pretty similar. It was the city planet, but they
Yeah.
also talked about how there were mountains and like a big forest that was also there.
Ooh.
Which
Yeah.
was retconned as it was a big park.
Yes.
Park. Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Nice.
Smooth.
Hey, whatever works. What happens next? He talks about the I forgot. I lost my train of thought again. They're at the council. He's reporting his findings. At whatever point we do go over to Talon Card's point of view, and that's where we're introduced to Mara Jade.
Right.
And she was a brand new character that Zahn created, and she would eventually go on to play a pretty big role in the Star Wars Expanded Universe, becoming
Married Luke Skywalker. Kind of a big deal.
and then had a kid.
Ben Skywalker.
Yes,
Strange.
yeah,
What's even stranger is that Leia would name her kid Ben, even though she had very little to no connection with Obi-Wan Kenobi.
help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're our only hope.
She knew him as Obi-Wan, not Ben.
You got me.
J.J. Abrams is a hack.
I mean, Han knew Ben.
For a day.
Yeah. Showed him the ways of the Force. We'll use the Force.
That's
Not how the Force works.
At least that was a kind of funny line.
Force Awakens is okay.
Yeah, so so we did have the timeline off. Thrawn did go to
Told
meet
you.
Talon Card, and that's where we were introduced to Mara Jade. They get the Ysilamiri, go to Wayland, get the allegiance of Sabayoth, and then we follow up with with Luke, Leia, Han, the original trio.
Together again.
Yep.
Huzzah.
And I think at this time, this is where we're kind of told about how the Noghri get involved with the story, because as they're leaving this council meeting,
right.
Mon Mothma instructs Leia that they need to go to this world of the
people.
Bimasari or
I
something.
don't remember.
The bins or bims.
Yeah.
That's I think what they're referred to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And because they're apparently going to be joining the New Republic or something.
Some
So-
trade dispute, maybe?
I don't know.
Could have been anything.
A lot of trade disputes in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah. It led to the downfall of the Republic.
Yep.
Go Empire.
Yep. Empire did nothing wrong. So they go to this planet, and they really wanted Leia and Luke because Luke is a Jedi, and they hold Jedi in high esteem. And they're like, they are noble people. They get to the planet. They go on the Millennium Falcon, and they're flying there. Also, we find out at this time, Leia is pregnant with 2 children, and but she wouldn't give birth to them until, I believe, The Last Command.
I don't remember.
I think. Yeah. So they're on Bimasari. They're
They
about to
split
get
up.
off of the ship, and the Bims immediately tell them, you have to leave your weapons. We don't want any violence. So Han Solo's really reluctant. Is like, fine, here. He throws his gun in. And then they let Luke go past with the lightsaber because they're like, maybe the lightsaber's a part of the robe, and they just are like, fine, or whatever.
Aye.
So they split up. Luke goes to this temple. while Leia and Han are going to like a market.
Yes.
Right.
The person that they were supposed to meet with to talk about whatever it is that they had to talk about had suddenly gotten sick for
Yes.
some weird reason.
Plot.
Well, we discover that it was actually the Nogari who had poisoned him.
It's suspected. I don't think
Yeah.
Zahn ever confirms that.
Oh, okay. Well,
They were like, well, it could have been done pretty easily, but or he might have just actually gotten sick.
yeah, I suppose.
It's a trap.
It's a trap.
Yeah.
This may possibly be a trap.
So we flash forward a little bit, and they see that whoever was guiding Leia and Han had disappeared, and they see the hooded Nogari come out of nowhere, and they're kind of surrounding them. And at this time, she sends a warning. Leia sends a warning to Luke, and Luke is like, "I'm being surrounded too," and he starts fighting the Nogari.
And they fight, and they fight, and they fight, and they fight, and they fight.
They kind of made this in the comics. They did not describe the lightsaber as having cauterizing abilities.
Right. It's like
It's
there's
very
enough
bloody.
bleeding everywhere. It's more like
Interesting.
episode 4.
Yeah, yeah.
The one time we see something get cut in episode 4.
Maybe if you only turn your
Episode 5.
lightsaber on to like
No, in episode 4, I said.
Oh, okay.
lower power setting on the lightsaber, just doesn't cause the heat. No cauterizing of the wounds.
Maybe.
Just causes the blood. Whoa.
Maybe
Wow.
Luke's finger slipped on the power button. It's like, yeah, let's try this. Whoosh.
Ah.
So,
That would have been a much different Star Wars universe if it would have been like.
yeah.
The R-rated Star Wars universe.
Yeah, very, very R-rated. Well, anyways, Luke is able to defend them against the Nogari. They don't know what the names of these aliens yet, but they were all eventually able to get back to the Millennium Falcon and just leave the planet without saying anything to the BIMs. And
Right,
Leia gets
bye.
really upset about that. She's like, "I'm a diplomat. I need to be there to help and whatever." And Han Solo's like, "Yeah, sorry, no, we're leaving."
Kind of channeling her Padme
Yeah.
a little bit.
Kind of.
There was no Padme.
There was no Padme.
Not
yet.
Incredible.
Although in one of the following ones, we see Leia's kind of her apartment in Coruscant, and there's a big, like a glass image of. You could assume that was supposed to be Padme. It kind of looks like her, but then I was thinking about this. This was written before
Padme
episode
Amidala
9.
existed.
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't know. Maybe it's a self-portrait. You can make it.
Seems very vain.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of.
Yikes.
So I don't know. Believe what you want to believe. You can see it in the comics if you'd like.
Sure.
So they leave, and
Zoom.
Luke kind of goes off to do his own thing where
Back to Dagobah.
yeah, he
Because
forget
what
his exact reasoning
the
for.
species said that the Dark Jedi had come and killed some of them, and he had come from Dagobah. So I think it was like this implication that maybe Yoda was a Dark Jedi or something. It's what I kind of read into in the comic.
Not that Yoda was a Dark Jedi. He thought he had killed the Dark Jedi.
Oh, okay.
Or something like that.
No.
And so there's some reference to a Dark Jedi coming from Dagobah or something.
Mhm.
So Luke wants to go check it out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so they go and do that while Thrawn launches his first offensive series of hit and fade attacks into New Republic territory, and then steals a complement of mole miners from Lando Calrissian's
Right.
mining operation
Well,
on Maklan.
Han and Leia went to go stay with Lando.
Yeah, for a little
Typical.
bit.
Yeah.
This is where a lot of those same
I'm
lines
trying to
come up.
reach Lando Calrissian. It's like, wow.
Why don't we just rip that whole script and paste it right here?
Because we're not on Cloud City, Curtis. They're on a
right.
big moving city.
Right.
Yeah. It's like it's near a sun.
It's
And-
really near a sun.
Yeah. And they're like mining, I don't know, stuff in this planet, I guess.
Valuable minerals and
Yeah.
resources.
And the only way that they can get there is if they go behind a big, they call it a shield ship or whatever, which blocks out the gamma rays, and they have to stay behind it for like 12 hours to get there or whatever. So I'm like, okay, we get to Lando, and Luke eventually, he goes to Dagobah. He just goes into the cave, and that's where he has the vision of Mara Jade, and he kind of remembers her a little. He's like, she looks familiar, but I can't place my finger on it.
You look familiar. Have I threatened you before?
And it's also there he discovers a slave circuit, which
Right, a homing beacon,
a
essentially.
homing beacon, so a ship can like pilot itself to get to you if you need. So apparently this Dark Jedi was probably using that to try to escape from Yoda when he attacked him, but that didn't go so well for him, and Yoda defeated him, apparently.
Did he?
I don't know.
I don't remember if there was actually a story behind that or not.
No,
I
not
don't
really.
think so.
It's kind of explained in Hand of Thrawn,
Sort of.
sort of. I don't remember.
Well, they get to Naklan, and that's where Lando explains that's a homing beacon or whatever.
Oh, right. Luke showed up there with them.
yeah.
Like at the same time
Yeah.
as the Falcon was flying.
So we skipped
through.
over some part.
Mhm.
Oh, well.
Oh,
Yeah.
well. We get there. And yeah, so Thrawn launches his attack to try to steal the mole miners, and they're all confused, like, why? Lando Calrissian's like, why are they stealing my mole miners? What's going on? Or whatever. I can't do a Donald Glover impersonation, so
Well,
I'll just go for the
you don't-
classic.
Yeah. Why would you do Donald Glover?
I like Donald Glover's Lando
Okay.
Calrissian. He's very,
He's fine.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's charismatic and
I almost felt it was a little too forced. It's just like, I don't know. He was on the edge.
I felt like that whole movie was forced.
yeah.
Out the door and into the theaters.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was not a great movie.
It was completely unnecessary.
But Darth Maul came back. It was necessary.
He was already back in the Clone Wars and in Rebels. He died in Rebels. There's no point.
It's at this time they decide to split up.
Nerd rage.
Nerd rage.
Let it out.
No. I'm just... I don't get why people think Solo's good.
Last Jedi was amazing.
That's true.
So what are all the things?
Not what you expected me to say, now was it?
Star Trek Into Darkness is the greatest film ever created. Benedict Cumberbatch is better than Ricardo Montalban. Oh.
You don't even believe that, and I know you don't.
I should create a list one of these days.
List
Anyway.
of things that upset Noah.
Sprint and Halo.
Oh, careful. Orange.
Ooh, very orange.
Orange. Like milk.
Yes.
So mole miners.
Yep. mole
Thrawn's
miners.
taking the mole miners.
Takes the mole miners.
What did he want with mole miners?
Don't know. But at this time, this is
We'll
when
find out.
they split up. Luke is going to try to find Jorah Sabayoth
Right.
because he receives a mental message from him. Like, come find me, Luke, or whatever. And Leia, Han, and Lando, they decide to split up, and they did some work on C-3PO's voice box or whatever to make him sound like Princess Leia. And he's all like offended by it. It's like, well, you're not supposed to do that. My programming specifically, blah blah blah,
Blah blah blah.
blah blah blah. C-3PO is upset, and so they all go off and do their different things. Luke just goes off in his X-wing. Lando and Han take Lando's ship. They
take the Falcon.
They take the Falcon.
Pretty sure.
Oh yeah, and
Leia and
takes...
Chewie go off in Lady's Luck.
That's right.
Right, but they
To
try to pull
Kashyyyk.
the switcheroo.
Yes.
Yeah. But Thrawn sees through
Right.
it.
Thrawn knows.
Immediately.
Yes.
We didn't talk about all the times when Thrawn is like inspecting all these different kinds of art. Like
We mentioned it.
at one point, it's like fire gems and what else was he looking at?
I only remember him looking at Akbar's art in The Last Command.
Yeah, it's a boat.
It's a boat.
Yeah. Apparently, he likes boats.
Really? On a water planet? Who would have guessed? Boats.
At some point in Heir of the Empire, Thrawn gets angry with the tractor beam guy. That's a little bit later, and he has the tractor beam ensign beheaded.
Yeah.
No. He just demotes him.
Oh,
No, he kills one of them.
Yeah, and his head is clearly flying through the air.
Yeah,
Book Thrawn doesn't kill subordinates, even ones that make mistakes.
I thought I read that in the novel too. That one of these people made a mistake,
Right.
and he killed him right then and there.
That wasn't Thrawn's style.
No, not really all the time, but he like decided to make an example.
Yeah, because Luke got away by
Yeah.
firing proton torpedoes.
That's it.
Yeah.
And he wasn't fully trained to figure out like what to
Yeah.
do or how the computer could react to such a thing. And I think
I got
that's
ahead of everything, but yeah.
actually that's right about that time because Luke leaves and he jumps out of hyperspace on his way to
Well, he gets pulled
finding yeah.
By
To
an
try to get
interdictor.
to
Star Destroyer.
Sebioth. I forget which planet that he says he's on.
That one planet.
Yeah, but Thrawn like is able to figure out which hyperspace lane Luke is going to take, so they like block it. Comes out of
Hyperspace
hyperspace. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's not tracking.
I know. I'm joking. They knew Rogue One was going to come out in 1991.
What? No.
Anyway.
Yeah. So they try to get him with a tractor beam, but then Luke fires a torpedo. It destroys it, and then at the same time, he makes a jump to hyperspace, and it like destroys his hyperdrive for whatever reason.
Well, you put a lot of strain on it.
Yeah.
It's floating through space.
Yep. Leia and Chewbacca, they go to Kashyyyk. That's the first time that we're ever described what Kashyyyk looks like and what we're ever shown in the comics. And in the movies, they didn't really talk about the cities that were in these big trees. They just kind of showed them on the ground.
In episode 3.
Yeah.
They're on a beach, so
Yeah.
okay. Because the rest, basically everything else that I've seen in the expanded universe is very consistent with this image of Kashyyyk. Where it's like everything's up in the trees really high. And then episode 3 came out, and George Lucas was like, fuck you.
I'm going to do what I want.
Fallen Order, Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah.
That was part of it was on Kashyyyk, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's, once again, fairly consistent with what
Yeah.
is more or less described. Like I said, it's just episode 3 that's just like, no.
I'm George Lucas. So Luke and Lando are kind of off on their own little adventure doing something, while Leia is getting attacked by more Nogari on Kashyyyk.
Right. That happens. Well, isn't Han and Lando, they're looking for Talon Card?
Yeah, they're trying to find him.
they're looking for a slicer, a master slicer, and Card would be
Right.
able to get them in
Yeah.
contact with him.
Right.
Yes. And that's how,
That's the other one, slicer instead of hacker.
yes, instead of computer hacker, a slicer.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And
It
then
worked.
Talon Card ends up finding Luke, right?
It's because of Mara Jade,
Yes.
because she didn't have any Ysalamiri around her.
Oh, so she could sense him.
Yes. And they describe her force abilities kind of strangely, where in this version, the reason that she did have force abilities was more to do with her connection to the Emperor, because she could hear his thoughts from wherever in the universe. And after he died, it became harder for her to use the Force because the connection between her and the Emperor was no longer there. But she still received like this weird message from the Emperor, like haunting her dreams, saying that you must kill Luke Skywalker.
That's true.
Yeah.
Force is mysterious.
Yeah. So
It seemed to me that the Emperor didn't really train her how to use the Force.
no, I don't
Just sort of how to listen to his messages and sort of kind of predict danger.
think. Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Which would make sense because he was like, I don't want people trying to kill me.
Mm-hmm.
Darth Vader's a quadriplegic. He ain't going to be able to do it.
So sad. But true.
But true.
Yeah, so eventually she becomes stronger in the Force as time goes by, but mostly all she can just kind of predict danger, and she can kind of figure out.
Sense disturbances to
Yeah.
a degree.
So while they're out in space, they find Luke Skywalker just kind of floating around because he only made it about half a light year away from the Star Destroyer after attacking it.
Thrawn was like, yeah, we're not going to look for him. Just get
It's smugglers.
Yeah.
smugglers to search along the vector.
Yeah, and so Card picks him up, but he decides, because he's an honorable smuggler, that he's not going to
Turn him
turn him in.
No, he's not sure if he's going to turn him in.
Yeah.
He's like, probably should, but...
He wants that was the other thing where Timothy Zahn was like trying to balance him kind of being almost Han Solo, but slightly more nefarious and on the fence about things all the time, but still trying to create him to be honorable.
That gets thrown out the window in the Hand of Thrawn.
Yeah, kind of, because he straight up just
Spoilers, Curtis.
yeah he decides
He's just kind of a
makes
good guy.
he takes a side.
Between The Last Command and Hand of Thrawn is like 10 years, so...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, because after this, it was Dark Empire and stuff?
Yeah,
Is
all that
when all that
stuff.
Yeah,
stuff came out?
that
Yeah.
happens like literally right after The Last Command, Dark Empire, and then the Hand of Thrawn series. Yeah,
10 years.
10 years after all of this.
Oh.
Yeah.
Long time.
So many books to read
Yes.
in my future.
So little
Yes,
time.
so little time.
If only I had more Thrawn books to read.
Haha. Soon.
Come on, Timothy. I believe in you.
It's supposed to be a trilogy.
So the Nogari are trying to kill Leia, and they escape eventually, but they capture one.
Uno.
And his name is Kabarak. And the
Yes.
reason that they were able to capture him was because when he initially tried to kill Leia,
She went for the lightsaber
yeah,
under her pillow.
that and like he smelled her, and
Right.
he could smell that she was the daughter of Vader.
Yes.
You could smell it.
Yeah.
And their lord,
She
they have a
smelled...
conversation, right?
Yes, she smelled like a black suit of armor.
I guess. I don't know.
That's weird.
Or did she smell like charred flesh that had healed over the course of 15 years? I don't know which implication is worse.
Yeah. Well, so they eventually like kind of leave being at least friendly with each other, because we later discover that Lord Vader was the savior of the Noghri people. Kind
Yes.
of.
Right.
Nah, he was.
Yeah.
The Empire did some things wrong.
Yeah. But he was kind of there to help. So that flashes us over to... so Luke is captured by Talon Card, and he's thrown in like a shed to keep quiet.
Not at first.
Not at first.
First, he's in like a holding cell.
Yeah.
The shed is when Thrawn shows up.
Oh, and Han
And Han.
And Han and
Lando.
Lando.
Lando,
Right.
right.
Yeah, like a bunch of people just kind of converge on the planet. I think it's called... Was that the planet Merkur? Or was
Yes.
that... I think.
Oh,
Whatever it is.
it's a planet.
That planet.
They take... Luke is taken to this... Oh, there's a mosquito near me. I think I got him.
Cool.
They take... Or Mara takes Luke to the shed, and he discovers that R2-D2 is right next to him in the other one, so R2 helps Luke to open up his electronic hand to take a battery out to power the door.
source, yeah.
Door lock. Yes.
So he can get out.
Very
And,
clever.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. So that happens, and Han and Lando go and meet with Talon Card.
For about an hour, and
Yeah.
then Thrawn shows up, and he's like, "You guys go hide.
Yeah,
Bye.
Bye."
and then they hide with the guy who would go on to become this master slicer,
Gent.
Gent. And he's a bit of a he can't like stop talking, so he like spills the beans
right.
on almost everything.
It's not that he can't stop talking; it's that he's bad at not answering questions. I thought
Okay.
was sort of the implication. Was like they'll ask him something and he'll just answer it
Sure.
because he doesn't think about it in that way.
Okay. All right. So they show up, and at the same time, Luke escapes from his storage shed, and he jumps in a little ship. I think they call it like a skyhopper or something, or a
No,
Yeah.
Skyhopper's what he flew back in Beggar's Canyon, wasn't it?
maybe
Yeah, it was like a skiff, something.
Something.
skiff something.
Maybe it was Skyhopper. I don't know.
Gets in a little ship. He decides to try to escape. Mara Jade figures this out, and she chases after him, and they crash in the middle of a forest.
Right.
And at the same time, Thrawn and the Imperials had seen what had happened, and they talk to Talon Card and say, "Do you want us to help you figure out what's going on?" And Thrawn's being all, that was
Thrawn
strange.
insists.
Yeah, he
Yes.
insists.
It's the least we could do for your assistance you rendered us,
Ah.
the Salamiri.
And he's already very
Sus.
suspicious, because there were no transmissions between any of the ships while this was happening. So that's
So how could Card have known what happened?
Yes. And he plays it off saying that it was a former employee who was mad at him. and-
Disgruntled for payment.
Something. It takes Luke and Mara several days to reluctantly work together to get out of the forest, because Mara eventually opens up to Luke about how she was the hand of the Emperor's hand, and how
Bum, bum, bum.
her life was completely ruined because Luke and Darth Vader teamed up on the Emperor and killed him together, because that's what she saw in her last vision from the Emperor.
She's not wrong.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we'd later find... she would later discover that
She
that
wasn't
last
right.
image wasn't technically right. But,
But it also wasn't wrong.
yeah.
From a certain point of
From
view.
a certain point of
Certain
view.
Point of view, yes.
So they have to march through the forest. Luke has to carry R2-D2 because it's too rough of a terrain for him to use his little wheels.
Right.
And this is prequel, so he doesn't have a jetpack yet.
Where's that jetpack?
Yeah.
I always got the implication that R2 had just been around so long, those parts broke down.
Yeah,
I guess.
probably. Yeah.
And he was just such an old model that they couldn't figure out how to put it back together.
Oh,
Poor R2.
R2.
I mean, they don't even give him memory wipes. He's going to go a little haywire. Maybe he forgot he had jets at that point.
Maybe.
Curtis is looking at something.
I don't know where my BB-8 went.
It's right there.
Oh,
No. Okay.
You can see part of the ball.
okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So they were eventually able to send a transmission to Luke and Mara because every night they would post up like a buoy or something from R2 and he could receive a
Right.
transmission. So also at this time, Talon Card explains everything to Lando and Han Solo that it was in fact Luke Skywalker out there, and he was not ever going to turn him into the Emperor or to Thrawn. He just wanted to keep him there for safekeeping.
Safekeeping.
Yes. Yeah, it works.
Maybe. Maybe not.
So they come up with a plan saying that Luke should come out of the forest, saying that Mara is the prisoner. Do the old switcheroo.
Old switcheroo thingy.
And they disguise Luke using the...
Rash-inducing plant.
Yeah. And,
Never seen that one done
No.
before.
well, it kind of works.
Except it doesn't.
Yeah. They leave, they get out of the forest, and they're immediately picked up by the Empire, and they're beginning to be brought back to Talon Card's base. And while this is happening, is Han Solo discovered by the Empire as well?
Han Solo's turned into the Empire by some of Card's men, but that's a ploy
Ah,
or
that's
something.
it. Yes, while Lando is up in a ridge somewhere.
Yeah. With some other dude that he has to shoot or doesn't shoot or something.
Yeah. So they come up with a scheme where they have to yeah. Luke eventually is able to break free, and there's a little battle that
There's a
occurs.
battle. Luke collapses outdoor structure, kind of like a
Something.
pavilion-looking thing.
Kind of, yeah. It's like a bridge pavilion, something.
Right, it's like a big archway, I think. That's what
Yeah.
it was.
And they go on, and then Talon Card's people are able to kill the rest of the Imperials, because at that time Thrawn had to leave because they were getting ready for the Sluis Van attack.
Right, good old Sluice fan.
And that is the start of his kind of main scheme to try to take over the
Rebel ships.
Yeah, to
Right,
take
he's
over
after
the Republic.
ships.
Mm-hmm. So he leaves. They destroy the rest of the Imperials there. They hop on the Millennium Falcon, Luke, Han, Lando, R2, and C-3PO, and they start heading towards Sluis Van because they're like, that's the closest place where we can get repairs on our ships, so we may as well go there. Because
As well.
plot.
Right.
The Force works in mysterious ways, Ryan.
Yes.
Guides us.
Yep. And that's where we have the final battle between the Empire, or at least in
The final battle of the book.
of the book between the
The
Empire
grand
and
finale.
the New Republic. Yeah, and so they used the mole miners to try to latch on to these other ships that the New Republic had brought in, and
Essentially use them as boarding craft.
yeah, and they would steer them away, and then the Empire would take them. So rather than that, Luke and Han and Lando, they start shooting at all of them, and
but not enough.
Yeah.
Not fast enough.
Not fast
They didn't
enough.
realize what was going on too late.
Yeah.
But then Lando, he's got a trick up his sleeve.
Handy.
Handy.
The
So he
code.
was like, wait, they jammed our transmissions at wherever the mining planet was. Why did they do that? It's because his codes would still register to be able to remotely control the mole miners. So he just turns them back on, and it fries all the Imperials that are in the bridges. Because they used the mole miners to breach the hulls of the ship so that they could put a team in.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it kind of works. They
Right.
stop a part of his plan.
No, they stopped the plan there.
Yeah.
They also ruined their own ships in the process, which
Yeah.
trade off.
Mm-hmm.
But that stops Mithran Rodo.
Yes.
Thrawn has to withdraw.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's okay. He says it's okay because we still have something. I forget.
Yeah.
He still has Mount Tantus.
Right, that, yeah.
And the Spa'arti clone cylinders.
We don't know the clone cylinders yet.
Sure.
Oh.
It's kind of cool.
It's neat.
Neat.
And the book ends with Leia sending a transmission to the Millennium Falcon. She had gotten back to Coruscant at that time, and she informs them that Admiral Akbar has been arrested,
Oh, yeah. Treason.
accused of treason against the New Republic by Borsk Phalia, who is all out for political gain. And
Damn
that's-
Bothans.
Yep. And that is Manny Bothans died.
I know what you're talking about. I read the comics.
Yeah.
Curtis, put a cricket sound there.
Crick.
I could do that.
Thank you.
And that's the end of the first book.
That is the end of the first book.
Okay.
I want to talk a lot about like comparing this to the sequel trilogy, but until we've gotten through all three of them, I kind of want to put that off.
Yeah.
You know, well, it's tough because, I mean, this is a trilogy of sorts, and then you've got the Dark Empire trilogy also.
Right, but until Dark Empire came out, and these three they're self-contained.
Oh,
Like
okay.
you can get to the end of Last Command and then just stop, and that's like, it's a good end point.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't rely on the next three to make
Right.
any sense.
No, not really.
No, it doesn't, which is really nice. So, like I said, once we get to the end of Last Command, I think there's an interesting discussion to be had.
But overall thoughts of the first book?
It's good.
Yeah, it's good. In the comic, it's weird because the pictures of Thrawn and whatever are different than the representations later on. So he kind of looks like a
Just a blue human, right?
Well, he's got
He's
like
got a really
he's
tall
got like
head.
a block
okay.
head kind of thing.
Interesting.
It changes in the other comics.
does
They
it?
they had different artists
Oh,
that
okay.
came in. The
Oh.
main one is something Baron. I don't remember.
I don't know.
Yeah. Something, I don't know. The main guy who worked on the comics, his last name is Baron. But they had different illustrators and
Sure.
I do like the representation that Disney actually went with, where it's like sort of, it's human, but it's just off enough that you're like, okay,
This guy's
Yeah.
evil.
he's not evil.
No. He's just
He's the
Well,
best.
he's not evil in these.
true. He's not technically evil.
He is the best.
They should make a game just about him. You make very Thrawn-like decisions. You have like A, B, and C, and they're all like very Thrawn-like.
And you win no matter what.
Just
If only.
Your option is
wonder
always check art. That's your save point.
A, check art. B, check art. C, check art.
I wonder, like, how well if Thrawn were to ever play like the game Risk, how do you think he would
He'd-
go about it?
He'd study his opponent first.
Ah, yes. Who is your favorite artist?
Exactly. he wouldn't play the game until he knew you.
Yeah. I suppose.
Or he wouldn't. He'd still win.
So do you think he would thrive at a time like this where everybody posts their stuff on the internet now? Because he could, like, would hardly have to do, like...
He would love Instagram.
You think?
Yeah.
Well,
I can
it's all
imagine.
art.
yeah, it's all art.
I suppose. From
Yeah.
a certain point of view.
From
yeah,
a
it's
certain
all
point of
art.
view.
Alrighty.
Food. Sandwich. Hot dog.
This man is very hungry. I will use that against him.
Yeah. So it's a great, it's a good, entertaining story that starts off the trilogy that he started.
Yeah. Starts it off really well. You're like, wow, I'm back in.
Wow.
You're off on another adventure with these characters that you know, and a few new ones.
Dun, 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 dun,
Dun,
dun,
dun,
Wait,
dun,
that's
dun,
the
dun.
wrong franchise.
Yeah.
This is the wrong franchise.
Same composer.
Hey.
But yeah. Next week we'll discuss Dark Force Rising.
Dark Force Rising.
Yeah. Go Dark Force Rising.
If you enjoyed this video, please like, maybe leave a comment. If you're new here, please subscribe.
We forgot. Ryan, what's new with you?
Well, not too much.
Go on.
Wait, why does he get so much more time?
I'm good.
Well, that's all we have time for this week. What's new with you? Curtis, you figured out my joke. Why does he get more time? It's the joke that I cut you off after 5 seconds.
So sad.
And I knew that he would think that I was going to cut him off after 5 seconds, so I let him go
I
on.
was thinking about this earlier today.
Yeah.
So I was like, I was prepared to just have nothing to say, but then
And then I got you.
Yeah.
very
Nice.
Thrawn-like.
I've read a lot of Thrawn over the last month.
Like and subscribe.
Bye.